What's going on, y'all? It's your boy Kofi Kingston, a.k.a. 1/3 of the New Day. You're not going to say it with me, sir? Yeah, come on, you better participate. Let's try it again. 1/3 of the New Day, and you are watching The Young and the Wrestlers. Ha 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 ha.
Welcome to The Young and the Wrestlers, the Pop Culture's WWE podcast, the show that takes a look at the soap opera nature of the WWE, the storylines, the characters. Essentially, we just mark out for a couple of hours each week. I'm one of your hosts, Ryan Betson, alongside...
Welcome to the Survivor Series. I'm Jem.
This is our WWE Survivor Series 2020 in review. It's coming at you at a Thursday morning at 8 a.m. on your podcast services, 9 a.m. on those YouTubes. If you want to join the wrestling conversation, head over to facebook.com/group/popculture, Twitter, Discord, Instagram. All those links are in the down below area. If you want to join the conversation as it happens, head over to twitch.tv/thepopcultures, where you can watch us record this show live. If you want to support the show, you can. Tell your friends, tell your family about this little wrestling pod. If you're listening on those podcast services, you can give us a 5-star rating and a written review. If you are on the YouTube, be sure to subscribe, like, leave a comment below. I did endeavor to answer every single comment. If you want to support us financially, you can at patreon.com/thepopcultures, as well as our merchandise store, popcultures.com/shop, where you can buy shirts and other assorted shit with our logos on it. Don't call it a comeback. We've been here for years. So we've just come back after a month off. Both Jem and I need a little bit of a refresh, a reset with the wrestling, as well as a bunch of family things happened at the start of the month. So we're just kind of like, let's just see it through until Survivor Series and we'll come back. Unlike the WWE, we sometimes have an off season.
Yeah. And especially with like myself starting a full-on new job and stuff like that, I needed the break. I was literally burning out. So we're back.
Yeah, and like
that's all that matters.
So with that time away has brought back a new fire for wrestling a little bit. Also, kind of not, because that even in that month off, the industry has continued to be pretty garbage. But you know.
Oh, yeah.
Anyway, yeah, how has your month off been, Jem? What have you been up to? What have you seen? What have you done?
I have been working. That's all I've been doing. I am currently working 34 hours a week, part-time technically, doing vampire-y stuff. So I'm now blood collecting, which is pretty cool. Yep. And piercing I'll be doing hopefully once a month as well. So I'll still be continuing to do that, just not as consistently. But yeah, it's literally been work, home. It's been, I've been training a brand new job, and it's been an intense sort of we're on week 10 for me now. So it's been a crazy 10 weeks already, but we're getting there slow and steady. So no complaints. How about you?
Yeah, well, your internet's been a little bit shoddy there, but it'll pick itself back up. It always does. But yeah, no, it's been good because with the restrictions reducing again now here in Victoria, and since the month since we last recorded, there's a bit more movement for everyone, a bit more going out and about and doing things, which is awesome. So rather, previously you were just going from home to work, but now you can go home to work and maybe the park and then home. Like you can do slightly more.
Just a little bit.
Just a little bit more.
I mean, I've got money now too, so I can
you can
do
do
a lot
things
more
though. You
that
can go
way.
there, you can go to the park and just throw money around, I guess, if you felt the need.
Yeah, I guess, if that's your thing.
If that's what you're into.
Everybody has their own
That's
thing.
right. Everyone has their little kink, and maybe mine's park money.
Yeah. Diving in fountains for change.
That's
Whatever
right.
works.
How do you think I got richer? But yeah, I myself have not been doing a whole lot. Of course, I've still been doing the other content we do at the Pop Cultures with the PlayStation show. That hasn't stopped. If anything, that ramped up a little bit over the last couple of weeks with the release of the PS5, which it's broken. So that sucks. But,
I was going to say, in your exciting saga.
Yeah, it was an interesting beginning. beginning of life with the PlayStation. Then it kind of sucked us real fast, but that's all right. But yeah, personally, life's been pretty sweet. Not a whole lot has really gone down. Ryan, get less fat update. I am now at 28.4 kilos lost.
Nice.
So I did the math. I have lost a total of 20% of my original weight.
That's awesome. That's huge.
Yeah, it is literally huge. Yeah. So, my camera's frozen. As if it wasn't your camera, your internet being weird. It's my camera freezing.
A little bit of both.
Yeah. 28 kilos is a lot, and I feel like it's kind of snuck. Like, I remember hitting 20. I remember hitting 25. Yeah. But like it's also weird, it doesn't seem like all connected.
Yeah. Well, you've got to remember muscle is heavier than fat anyway. So if you are sort of like, if you're defining your muscles,
certainly not. Like I busted my
plateau.
I think I don't think you saw me. So I busted my shoulder over the month. Yeah.
You did too.
I don't think I did it when we were recording this. So I
think just at the start.
Yeah, so story time. I was leaving my house to go for my regular walk around the estate that I live in. I made my way to the end of the street where I proceeded to be attacked by a plover, where I tripped and fell and spiked the ground and blew apart my shoulder. So I've not been able to do a whole lot of sort of physical exercise or activities this month, as it hurt to move. Like walking was a bit rough. Had to have it in a sling. It turns out I didn't break anything, which is fantastic. Instead, I just sort of blew out all the muscle groups that went over the top. And sort of bruised some of that connecting tissue as well. But it was one of those things I had to rest it for a little while, so I couldn't do my DDP yoga. I couldn't do sort of any weight-bearing stuff. It was mostly walking, and even then I had to like strap it up to my chest as hard as I could to like not rattle around as I walked.
Yeah.
There you go. Anyway, that's nothing to do with what we're here to talk about today, which is Survivor Series. So it's that time of the year where brand versus brand. Now, sadly, this year we didn't see the return of Raw versus NXT versus SmackDown. Obviously, with the pandemic, and the reason they're not doing Raw Underground is because they can't have the Performance Center and the Thunderdome sort of mingle due to potential outbreaks between the two.
Well, both of them are being called hotspots.
Hotspots, yeah. So for that reason, they cannot commingle. So they were kind of forced. Their hands were forced, and they weren't able to go down that path this year. So instead, just Raw and SmackDown, standard. Best of the best was the tagline for this. But let's kick it off with the Kickoff Show. The Kickoff Show started with the cross-brand battle royal, where we saw a selection of men from both sides just coming together in Boston. So anyone that wasn't on the main card that needed a payday got into this battle royal. In short, it was fine. It ended with The Miz taking the win after getting thrown over the ropes by Dominic Mysterio, but he rolled into the ring before he was basement kicked out, which therefore not eliminated because he got back within the ring.
Because he got back under the bottom.
Dominic then yeeted Chad Gable over the top, thinking that he had won. In comes The Miz with a yeet of his own out. The Miz, not just Money in the Bank winner, which I think we discussed at Hell in the Cell previously.
Yes, we sure did.
Yeah, so that he did do an attempted cash in after Hell in a Cell. It didn't go well. Or technically, he didn't cash it in. He went to cash it in, but it didn't actually. The bell didn't ring, therefore the match didn't officially start. So he's still the briefcase holder. So it's interesting. I was curious as to why The Miz won. Like, granted, this Royale isn't going to do anything or progress anything, but I did feel that it probably would have been a better option for Mysterio to Dominic, to come out with the win, even just to give him a little bit of a rub, because since Hell in a Cell, they have finalized the story with Dominic, the Mysterio family and Seth Rollins, as well as Buddy Murphy, with Buddy Murphy turning on Seth Rollins and Rey Mysterio giving the handshake to allow him to bonk his daughter. So, he's got dad approval to go to Pound Town. So Dominic's got other things to do now, I guess.
R.I.P. Rest in Pound Town.
Yeah.
Jesus.
Yep.
Yeah, look, it was odd, but at the same time, like, it's kind of to be expected. Like, the outcome of this, in the grand scheme of things of what Survivor Series is, it was kind of predictable. Because first win of the night, obviously, that went to Raw. And we all know that Raw is.
But even then, the
kickoff
Kickoff Show has seen a history of not being counted in the final tally.
Yeah, that's true too.
Which is super weird.
But
either way.
Yeah.
Either way, we'll get into
odd.
We'll get into the main card. It did kick off with the men's Survivor Series elimination match with the teams of Raw vs SmackDown. So for Team Raw, we saw AJ Styles, Keith Lee, Braun Strowman, Matt Riddle, who has since had his name reduced just to Riddle, and Sheamus versus the SmackDown team of Kevin Owens, Jey Uso, King Corbin, Seth Rollins, and Otis. Now, Jem, if you look at those list of competitors purely on the wrestlers alone, who do you think had the upper hand?
I thought SmackDown did.
Really? Why so?
It's just a stronger team overall. Like, I think, well, look, Team Raw had a strong team as well, but I think, you know, the fighting spirits of Jey Uso, Kevin Owens, Otis, Seth Rollins, and King Corbin, I feel like they all had something to prove. I guess AJ Styles did in a sense. Oh, they all kind of did when you think about it now. But no, I don't know. I just had it in my head, Team SmackDown. It was something about, you know, the whole Jey Uso, Roman Reigns thing that I think was triggering it. But no, it went the complete opposite, you know? Yeah,
so when I was looking at them as just from a list of competitors, like irregardless of storyline, I'm looking at Raw. And like I was thinking, look, Raw has, you know, Sheamus, he's a unit. Braun Strowman, he's a unit. You know what I mean? Like Riddle, not Riddle. Riddle's on Raw.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Riddle, Keith, like there's a lot of meat there, like a lot of big hard hitting. So they didn't have the versatility that SmackDown had with the likes of Rollins and Owens being fighters, Corbin being a bit of their version of a heavy hitter, with Jey being airborne and Otis being this sort of like tank. Like they did have a a more well structured party compared to just a very big dude heavy. So I was like, oh, that would make sense for Raw to win. Now, spoilers, Raw did win. However, it was a clean sweep. That's not what I would have predicted at all.
Neither. I was quite shocked. Like, it was a phenomenal match. It's definitely a match you have to call, especially when you hear Jey Uso punch somebody and Otis just go, ooh, juicy. I've never heard of a punch called juicy.
Well, who's got the juice, you know?
Who's got the juice? Which, you know, I think the turning point for me in the moment I knew it was all over is when Seth Rollins was tagged in and he turns around and he yells out for the greater good and he just drops himself in front of Sheamus as a sacrifice.
Yeah, so he sacrificed himself and gets eliminated with a brogue kick. Makes sense.
Yeah.
He's about to go on pat leave. His storyline is finished. Fucking why not? So he gets kneed in the face. So he can hang out with his partner Becky Lynch. I believe she'd be expecting very, very soon.
Very, very soon, for sure. We did see a little bit of Keith Lee versus Otis, which was beautiful because it was just a stalemate.
It was just meat on meat. It was so good, and they were just like hitting each other, and like they weren't sort of getting anywhere. It was impressive. And then saying that, like Keith just picks up Otis. It's like, and then Otis tries. It wasn't quite as successful, but
still. But then we see AJ Styles eliminate Kevin Owens, and then Matt Riddle eliminates Corbin, and then, you see Otis, like, literally hurl Keith Lee with a suplex. That was wild. Like, Otis literally, like, yeet him. It was ridiculous. It's like when Keith Lee pushed Adam Cole into the crowd.
It was. He got same energy.
Same. Exactly it. And then Braun Strowman eliminated Otis, and then it was Jey Uso facing the entirety of Team Raw on his own, with Keith Lee getting the final elimination.
Yeah, with the big spirit bomb. Yeah, which was insane because like he had him in like a Samoan drop sort of setup, and then he picks him up and gets him on his shoulders, and then bombs him. And I'm like,
yeah,
hot
beautiful.
damn.
Yeah, and that was a solid queen sleep too. Like the way that it was put together, it was just like, oh, SmackDown are gonna no, and he's gone. Like it was very like on the edge of your seat kind of thing.
It was a good moment though, where
when
the chips were clearly out of Jay, not on Jay's side, and he's like whatever, and then just super kicked everybody.
Everyone.
Yeah. Anyone that was in distance, just kick, and then he got out of the ring and kicked anyone that wasn't in distance originally.
Yeah, he made them in his zone.
Yeah.
But no, overall it was a good match. The clean sweep I did not expect, but I did expect, as much as I didn't want it, I kind of expected the Team Raw win.
I would go the other way. From a storyline perspective, I would have presumed that SmackDown would have won, showing the dominance of Jey Uso, especially now.
Yeah,
that he
I
has made
wanted
that,
them to, but
yeah, especially now that he's sort of taken to the side with his cousin Roman. But it appears that wasn't the case. Because later on, we did see Jay outside Roman's locker room, where he comes and addresses Jay. So Roman comes out, and he's not too pleased about the
not at all.
Which makes sense.
Not at all.
But the argument for him was that like, if you lost because you couldn't hold your team, you couldn't lead your team, so they don't respect you. If they don't respect you, they don't fear you. If they don't fear you, they don't fear me. And what does that mean for me being the head of the table?
Exactly it. And he also went on to say that there's no room on the family table for losers.
Yeah. So does that mean he's out? Probably not.
No, there'd have to be some sort of redemption. There always is in that situation. And I kind of knew it when Oos lost. I was just like, okay, there has to be some redemption moment here, for sure.
But like, there's a bit more to see there. It was good because it did kind of push some storylines a little bit further, which I'm happy with. Because most pay-per-views tend to like close things up if they can, but it's nice that this one is pushing forward. So we're getting that long-form storytelling that we want, because this has been going on since SummerSlam, and we're pretty confident that it's going to end at probably big.
That's okay.
Wow, that yaw just kicked the crap out of me. At WrestleMania in April, so there's still a bit more time here. There's 5 months left on this feud, or this build. Sorry, very excited.
Yeah, for sure.
Next up was the tag team match. It was the SmackDown Tag Team Champions of the Street Profits versus the Raw Tag Team Champions, The New Day, who came out in their newly designed Gears of War costumes. Because for those who don't know, over the break, it was announced that Batista would be the face of Marcus Phoenix in Gears of War, and additionally, the New Day are now playable characters in the Gears of War 5 multiplayer, which I think is amazing. It's awesome.
Yeah, especially with what Woods does in the gaming community, I think it's totally warranted.
Yeah, well, seeing as when Gears 5 was announced, they were part of the E3 conference. They were playing it under the stage with Breezango.
Yeah.
Which was mad. It's also Tyler Breeze and Fandango. So that was mad. But yeah, it was an interesting thing. So this is an interesting dynamic here. So we've got two very similarly
beautiful.
Base characters, a lot of high energy, a lot of fun, a lot of mocker, energy. So as they came out, New Day are dancing along, Street Profits, there is a friendliness there, because it is a face versus face scenario here.
Yeah, and obviously we've seen in previous weeks, the New Day pretending to be the Street Profits and stuff like that. So there was definitely a healthy. It was a very healthy matchup for sure, because you could just see they were having fun with it and they were mucking around with each other, and it was one of those matches that I could see those guys were enjoying, so I was enjoying it.
Yeah, because you messaged me with I cannot get this smile off my face.
Oh yeah, I was grinning like an idiot because they were grinning like idiots. You could tell they were just so stoked to be facing each other finally. And I think I'm a sucker for puns, and when the New Day got the guy, the Street Profits out on the outside of the ring, knocked them both down, and they were both looks like Profits are down. I was like, Bazinga. But no, it was a beautiful match. With this one, I felt like, I I felt like Team SmackDown, aka the Street Profits, had something to prove. I felt like they needed the win for this, which they did end up taking, which I was stoked about. I definitely thought, like, these guys, obviously, like, things started to get a bit stale on SmackDown. They were doing great on Raw. But having them pick up this win is awesome. I thought that was really freaking cool because it was a beautiful win. And then at the end of the match, they all, like, hugged it out. Yeah, it was just perfect.
So, yeah, because this is the thing. Like, so the New Day come out and they do the little announcement and they are the 10-time champs. So it's a situation of either
Big E was with them.
They have to hold their legacy or they have something to prove in terms of they can still go. Like, we know they can still go. So that's not new information.
Mm-hmm.
Pardon me. So it's either going to go two ways. Either they're going to, give this new team the rub, which it looks that's what they did at the end. They gave them big hugs and they hugged it out. And I think that's what it was. If we look at it from away from that kayfabe perspective, like, this is the New Day going, this is the team you need to watch. And I agree because I've mentioned many times that they are both incredibly charming. They're good on the mic. They're good in the ring. And they deserve that where they're at right now. Now, I'll still argue, until they do it, that the tag titles need to be united.
Unified.
And I think when they become unified, I think Street Profits should retain them still.
I think so too.
So, because their gimmick, as I've discussed before, like this, it's the same gimmick as Private Party over on AEW, but Private Party suck. The team over here with Street Profits are so much better.
Mm-hmm. They know what they're doing.
But you were spot on. It was a good match. It wasn't an easy win by any stretch of the imagination. No. Like, Dawkins alone taking like 3 boom drops from Kofi. Like, what would be a lot of sort of their finishes were, added to. Even the likes of Montez's big splash, didn't quite do the things it needed to. But it was a sort of lengthy beat down in order to get the win. That part I really enjoyed.
Yeah. With Montez Ford pinning Xavier Woods, I think was awesome. It was a really cool, really cool match. It's definitely one of the ones to watch.
Big time. Now, one of the things I heard on the socials, someone laid down the predictor that this would be the moment Big E would turn on the New Day. So instead, and that's how they would lose.
Yeah.
However, I'm glad it didn't go that way.
Yeah, definitely not. I think it was a really healthy display of showmanship.
Yeah, it was it was good, friendly competition between them.
Yeah.
And it wasn't like an easy win. There was no sneaky or dirty tactics. Like, it was like, boom, easy win. There you go.
Yeah. And you could tell they were having a blast with it, and they were just really putting their all in because they were enjoying it so much. Yeah.
So next up, speaking of dirty tactics, was the mid-card title bout. So we had Bobby Lashley with the Hurt Business, where he's currently the United States champion, versus Sami Zayn, the Intercontinental champion.
Yes.
It's probably the match.
So Bobby Lashley for Raw, Sami for SmackDown.
Yeah. So obviously with the tag team one, that was one of the matches I was really having difficulty calling. And this was in the same, even though I didn't really give a shit about the outcome of the mid-card titles, because right now both those stories are kind of underwhelming, I still couldn't call this because it was going to go, I thought it was going to go two ways. Either Bobby's going to have a moment where he gets the upper hand and demolish Sami, or Sami's going to do some sort of form of dirty tactics and get the little sleazy win, because that's sort of where his character's at right now.
Now, I was going to say, in that situation, I would have said Sami Zayn if it was, if it was alone, there was nobody ringside.
The second the Hurt Business came out,
Yeah, exactly. Bobby Lashley coming out with the Hurt Business, I was like, here they're done. So I loved this because the Hurt Business didn't interfere how you'd expect them to. They sort of like, they'd get close, but they wouldn't touch Sami. They'd say stuff to him, but they wouldn't touch him. They'd sort of get, like, there was just intimidation tactics, but no actual laying their hands on him.
Yeah.
Which I think was beautiful. Whereas Sami's always the one to go for a cheap shot and stuff like that.
So even something similar, Sammy was attempting to sort of like leave, but like MVP was just standing in the walkway. So because essentially with having
Sammy was
Alexander,
telling him to
MVP,
move, wasn't he?
Not Apollo Crews, what's his name?
Shelton
Benjamin.
Benjamin.
Like there was essentially a person at every possible exit point. But
exactly
MVP
right.
didn't get in. Like he didn't trip it. Like Sammy did trip, but he didn't trip him. He was just standing in the right spot, almost like knowing where Sammy was going to go.
Oh, and Sammy was trying
there.
to play the he tripped me card.
Yeah, and it's like, I didn't even move. It's almost like he saw him coming and then went, I'm going to stand here.
Yeah.
And then that's what happened. So technically that's not interference.
That was so funny. Sami Zayn just trying anything to get help. But ultimately, the Hurt Business did win. Bobby Lashley won with that Hurt Lock. But yeah, this was really interesting in the sense of how the Hurt Business went about getting the win. I think it was very smart. It was very good for business, for sure. But yeah, I sort of knew the minute Bobby Lashley came out with everybody that was over for Sami Zayn.
Yeah. See, this one's a tough one because there is really there's no story here that I can see. Like, in terms of Bobby getting the win, I don't know what that. I don't see that giving any sort of momentum over on Raw.
No.
With Sammy taking the L, unless there's someone being like, well, how can you defend this against the other brand? But obviously with SmackDown not airing as of yet, we're not quite sure where that's going to go, what is going to change here from that. So that's going to be the next interesting step. Because I'm still pretty confident that although Big E may not get or at least may not go for the big title shot just yet, knowing with the storyline of Roman, I think that might be a good place to go in the interim. Because if you look look at the roster at SmackDown, I can't really see anybody else that'd be willing to go. So it's sort of in a good story space to go after the mid card. But from recent things we've heard, they've already kind of quote given up on Big E, which is stupid.
Oh, which is heartbreaking. Especially after everything that happened with Kofi, they could easily get such a big pop from it.
Yeah, but I think that's one of those things they're kind of expecting a crowd, and that's not happening for a little while. Yeah.
I couldn't help but laugh when Sammy was like in between the ropes right at the start of the match, and he's like hanging his head out, and he goes to Shelton Benjamin. He's like, "You think you're intimidating me, Shelton? Because you're not. You're not." That was so good.
My favorite part was when he was doing that sort of inverted hold. I forget what it was called. And then Sammy leans between the ropes. He's like, "I've got vertigo, man. Get back!"
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I did enjoy that.
That was so funny.
That made me chuckle a little bit. But next up was the women's champions. It was Asuka, the current Raw Women's Champion, versus Sasha Banks, the newly won SmackDown Women's Champion.
This was interesting because so far Sasha Banks has not won to Asuka, and she has a pretty.
No, that is incorrect. She totally has. She won the Raw Women's Championship earlier in the year. That was when both Sasha and Bayley were champions, when they had all the gold. So she had got the one in the past. But your point to there was, so Bayley hasn't beaten her. Now after Hell in a Cell, Bayley did have a rematch, which she subsequently lost. Therefore, Sasha retained. So, if anything, this was sort of a proving ground for Sasha to be like, I can do. I didn't just beat you. I'm now doing something again that you couldn't do. Now, granted, it looks as if the Sasha Bayley storyline has gone a little bit quiet for a while. Like, I don't see them getting involved with one another. Because Carmella has since returned, and she's focused very heavily on Sasha. So we're presuming that that's probably where this is going to go after that.
Yeah.
So Sasha Banks did get the win here in a
beautifully
in a clean pin, if I remember right. It was a jackknife. Yeah, via pinfall. There you go.
Yeah, it was a very, very, very beautiful match.
With a big jackknife pin. Yeah.
Yeah. It was a stellar display of where the women's division is at right now, for sure. It was just a beautiful match between two phenomenal fighting champions. And I loved it. I think this was one of those matches I didn't care which way it went because I would have been happy either way.
The thing from that's for me. It was the same thing with difficulty. So Sasha has a history of winning but not retaining. And what we're seeing here is a little change in the tides. We're seeing her retain against Bayley. We're seeing her not take the L here on pay-per-view against Asuka. So like she has a history of losing when those tough moments come. But yeah, so it's good to see it go the other way here. It makes me wonder what we're going to see with Asuka here because this at least it wasn't a win by submission. Knowing that both, obviously with the Asuka lock and the bank statement, like they're very submission focused. So to have it not go
Which
down
the match
that path,
was.
there was a lot of work on that. There was a lot of work, working on each other's arms and whatnot, knowing that that's sort of the key part of each of their submission attempts. That was very clever. One thing that I want to point out though. Yes. I don't know what's changed, but recently I've just gained this appreciation of Sasha Banks.
Yeah, me too.
Not because she's champion, but it's one of those things upon reflection. I look back and I think about the matches that she's done, and I think about what I've seen, and I go, man, she goes. Like, she really goes.
Yeah. Oh, God, yeah.
Like, she goes hard. And I'm like, okay, cool. I guess, I'd admit that I'd probably understate. Like, it's one of those things, if I was to look at the four horsewomen and I was to rank them, I probably would go Charlotte, Sasha, Becky, Bayley. You know what I mean? Like, she's number 2, almost because Charlotte is just naturally born fantastic.
Yeah. Yeah, I can agree entirely with that for sure.
Yes, that was it. That was a good outcome, and I think it can move things a little bit more forward as well. Which is it does make me wonder what does that mean for Asuka though. She hasn't really had a whole lot at the moment in terms of doing anything to defend her title.
Yeah.
But those could change.
Yeah, we did see a little bit on Raw, which we'll obviously talk about another time. But it seems like
you go ahead.
Yeah. I was going to say, it seems like Asuka's on the hunt for a competitor and not the other way around at the moment.
Yeah, which is interesting. Yeah. So next up was the Women's Survivor Series elimination match. It is Team Raw, which is Nia Jax, Shayna Baszler, Lacey Evans, Peyton Royce, and Lana versus the SmackDown team of Bayley, Natalya, Bianca Belair, Liv Morgan, and Ruby Riott. Now, same approach to the men, Jem. If you looked at these purely on a wrestling setup in terms of who are the competitors in the match, not storyline, where would you have put your money?
With Raw. 100% tag team champions.
I would have gone the other way. I would have gone SmackDown.
Yeah? You reckon?
Yeah,
I suppose the camaraderie of the Riot Squad and Bianca Belair is pretty amazing.
Yes, we've got, so Bayley, previous women's champion. Natalya, one of the, she's the boat. She's the best of all time. She's the boat. Bianca Belair is a major rising star, and she is the EST. She's the biggest, the fastest, whatever.
And I'll give Corey Graves credit. She was the last surviving SmackDown team member, and Corey was like, now she's the loneliest. Hey!
Well, because you got to, because on top of that, so she, with her Royal Rumble debut earlier in the year, she's now tied for the second highest amount of eliminations next to Shayna. Like they have that going for them in this match. And if you look at Raw is certainly a strong team.
And didn't
you got Shayna?
Bianca Belair's team were. I was going to say Bianca Belair was on NXT last year.
Yeah, so they certainly were a more cohesive team, even though there was resistance among them. It wasn't the same as Raw. So we had Shania Payne. We had Shayna. What the fuck, Ryan? Shayna Baszler and Nia Jax. They may be a tag team right now, but there's not a lot of working well there. You've got Lana and Peyton who are in... Lacey Evans and Peyton who are this interesting tag teamy setup, even though Peyton got split from her tag partner, should then be put in a different tag team. Don't know what's going on with that. That seems to still be a very, very weird choice. And then Lana, who sort of won her opportunity to get into the Survivor Series match by sort of stealing a pin in a qualification match.
Mm-hmm. And then copying a Samoan drop through the announce desk 9 times consecutively. 9 consecutive times.
Yeah.
And yeah, this was an interesting match because it was sort of like Team Raw against Lana. Because, earlier in the night you see, Lana sort of standing on her own behind everyone while like Nia looks back and tells everybody not to tag her in. They're just like, she's not to be tagged in, she's not to be acknowledged tonight type thing. And Lana sort of took it on herself to get into the match at one point. And yeah, she gets in trouble for it and they kick her out and make her literally stand on the step and just stay there like a child, which is ridiculous. So yeah, it's basically like 4 on 5 because, Lana's just hanging out on the steps there. But like, I couldn't help but laugh. Corey Graves gets me every time because he really does drop those slide jokes that just land really well. Mm-hmm. And when Peyton Royce was coming out, he's like, well, if she's a perfect 10. And I was like, I see what he did there. But yeah, so first elimination did go to Peyton Royce, who eliminated Bailey. People, which was
holy poo.
Yeah, huge.
Holy poo.
But unfortunately, Natalya comes in after that and taps Peyton out to the sharpshooter. And then, yeah, Lana tags herself in at some point there. And then, Natalya gets eliminated by Lacey. And then Ruby Riott gets eliminated by Shayna Baszler by getting screwed out of a pin somehow. I can't remember exactly.
Oh, so what happened is Shayna had Bianca in the Carafuna clutch, but as she passed out, she fell with her arm across the rope. Shayna failed to disengage from the clutch, therefore having it be a disqualification.
Oh, yeah, that's it. Yeah, she was, yeah.
Fantastic way to go about it.
Yeah, definitely. It was really good. Yep, Shayna eliminated herself. And then, Liv Morgan, pissed about it, eliminates Lacey Evans, but then gets eliminated by Nia Jax. Bianca Belair was about to jump in and grab the pin, but Shayna Baszler got a hold of her, stopping her from helping out. It was down to... what we thought was Nia Jax and Bianca Belair, who end up getting double counted out right at the end. Is like, I think Bianca puts Nia over the, what's that side thing called? The barrier, and then she tries to jump back in the ring and just misses out. So it ended up being a double count out. And we forgot that Lana was just standing on the steps. So that made Lana the sole survivor and winner for Team Raw, which Jax was obviously pissed about. But yeah, that was an interesting win that I was not expecting. But that was, I don't know, the way they did that match was really, really cool. Like, I don't know, it just kind of, I don't know. I just really enjoyed it. There was something about the way it was put together that was just
There
fun.
were some really good moments in there that I got a kick out of.
Yeah.
So the thing that like throws me though is the outcome.
Yeah.
Now, having there being a chronicle before Survivor Series, focusing on Lana, I'm like, I have a feeling I know where this is going to go. So they are once again kayfabe removed. They are trying to make her a babyface, or at least a sympathetic babyface. So the idea of her going through those tables 9 times is supposed for us to build sympathy around her and how she's being treated.
It's working.
Having
I
her,
feel bad for her.
Yeah, I do, but I don't. You know what I mean? It's like I feel that there could be something else, and I don't know. I don't know what they could add to it, but it's missing that something. Like sympathy is not the line that I want to go when it comes to the wrestling. Like I'm gonna be like, oh man, why can't you just get, why can't they just seem to catch a break? You know what I mean? Like even here, like she got the win by default. And I'm like, that's not really like, so if she claims that she's like, oh, I was a sole survivor, I did this, I did that, like, you didn't though. Like, you got in, you didn't eliminate anybody, it's just by pure chance you got the win. So, like, in terms of you making any claims or any stakes of success or power, you didn't.
Watching Raw, she really didn't. Though, like Lana was very humble
once again,
about
I have not seen all of Raw, so I haven't really seen a whole lot around that. But I mean, even in terms of if she then, after getting the win, and Nia comes in and she decks Nia, or at least Nia comes in like a raging bull, and she ducks out of the way, and Nia takes the pole, or falls off the, like that would be like, I would call that, like, that's not just. There's a little bit of comeuppance there. That's what I'd want to see. And that might come in time. They might be building towards that. But
it's definitely heading that way, especially watching Raw. You'll be able to see that, good things are coming.
I'm sure that's the case, but right now I'm just like, I know I can see where they're going, I can see what they're trying to do, but sadly it isn't working.
Not yet, anyway. Give it time.
But it was great to see sort of Bianca have a moment to shine. As I've discussed before, didn't really care for an NXT, but I am enjoying her here at SmackDown. I think she's incredibly charismatic. I think she obviously is a absolute unit. Just like gorilla pressing Peyton, even though Peyton really weighs like 45 kilos or something. Even just that little, essentially defeating the clutch, because unlike everyone else's, you just kind of passes out pretty quickly from the clutch. You're still able to get up and get into a position of power, and in return have Shayna disqualified. Other than that, like the Riot Squad were there. But anyway, that brings us to the final match of the night, not the main event, but the final match of the night. The big champions. It was Roman Reigns, the big dog, taking on Drew McIntyre. No longer the Scottish psychopath, and they changed this a couple of weeks ago. He is now the Scottish Warrior. He came out in full kilt and fucking actual Claymore sword, which was mad. That
was so mad. Wow. So first of all, I didn't know that. So last time we spoke, really, Randy Orton had won the title.
He did. He won it at Hell in a Cell, and then a week and a bit later, he lost it on Raw.
Yep, he sure did. So Drew McIntyre is our champion again, which I was not ready for. I was just like, what? What? Huh? Not mad about it at all. Stoked. What a freaking match. It was one of those matches being bigger dudes and they're sort of a bit slower, heavier hitters. So the match was a bit slower in that respect. But my God, it was a slobber knocker. It was just hard hit after hard hit.
Yeah, I really, really enjoyed it. I thought it was two dudes, like, essentially giving their best, going absolutely hard, and two champions going hard. There were a lot of big hits, hard hits, and they were just like giving each other a real sort of like red hot go, which I enjoyed. There's so much about it that I enjoyed. Was it sorry?
Yeah. Oh, and I said, and they were destroying the venue while they were at it.
Yeah, no, it was great. We saw a lot of we saw like Roman go for, Roman get a Samoan drop get some Samoan drops and stuff in. We see Drew go for his Future Shock DDT. There were many Claymore attempts. There were spears. Like there was all this big stuff, and it did kind of only way it could really go in. So Reigns gets hit with a Claymore and kind of falls into the ref, knocking the ref out. Jay comes in, gets a little bit of action on Drew, which then allows for, I think it was a dick punch, and then...
Roman Reigns gets a dick punch, and then... so distracted by Jay, so Roman Reigns gets a dick punch in, and then Jay gives him a big old super kick, and they get a new referee. And I believe it was a guillotine submission.
There was an attempt of a guillotine earlier on, but it did finish with it as well. It was one of those. That's one thing I really enjoyed here. There were lots of like setups to things that will kind of come later, like set up for DDTs. It took a couple of goes, then they got there. Set up for a couple of claymores, didn't quite get there. Got there. Superman punch that didn't land. Then one did. Couple of guillotine attempts early on. Then that's what brings it down.
I love that they're moving away from the Superman punch. I fucking hate that thing.
But that guillotine seems brutal too, because like Roman ain't a small dude. Roman ain't a small dude, and he is like putting all his weight on these individuals. Yeah. It's mad.
Yeah. Which obviously it was expected for Roman Reigns to get the win because he did have assistance. But that I haven't checked the wins, but obviously it's Raw. I'm pretty sure SmackDown won like 2.
SmackDown won 3. And then, but they also won. They also won the important ones. They won the men's champion. They won the women's champion, and they won the tag team champion. So they won. That's true. Really count.
Because Bobby Lashley, again, heading back to Raw, because I was watching it earlier today. Bobby Lashley was saying like, I was the only champion on Raw that got us a win. So, yeah.
And, like, that says a lot. Like, that says a lot about the at least the state of the champions at SmackDown. You know, 'cause as I said, right now, SmackDown is the better show. Me personally.
Yeah, I can agree.
Yeah, so, like, I think we're just seeing more and more of that, really.
Yeah.
Anyways, that does bring us to the main event. It is the farewell of the Phenom. After his debut at Survivor Series 1990, we see The Undertaker have his last in-ring moment. Thankfully, it wasn't a match, therefore confirming that the Boneyard match at WrestleMania was the last match that we would see The Undertaker. Instead, we have him come out into the ring and say some final words. But before that does happen, though, we do see almost everyone that's ever said hello to The Undertaker come into the ring. You know, we see,
Here we go. I've got the list here if you want me to read it out.
Go through the list. Yeah, give me the list.
Yeah. So, Shane McMahon, The Big Show, JBL, Jeff Hardy in Undertaker face paint. He had, like, the cross teeth thing. It looked amazing. Mick Foley, The Godfather, The Godwins, Henry O and Phineas I, Savio Vega, Rikishi, Booker T, Kevin Nash, Triple H, Shawn Michaels, and Kane dressed as Kane.
Yeah, so a couple things there. So everyone that's Undertaker sort of had his big matches with, aside from Brock Lesnar, I guess, or even Edge. I think he had a lot of big run with Edge. Like a lot of the big tentpole things, matches you can think of were those individuals. Obviously, Hell in a Cell with Mankind, his entire run with Shawn Michaels, obviously Triple H, you know, his brother, you know, Kane, his brother, even the Brothers of Destruction. Yeah. And that's a side that I want to mention as well. By having Glenn Jacobs come out as Kane rather than be Glenn Jacobs, because I think kind of secondary to Undertaker, he's been kind of protected on television. Like, when Glenn Jacobs won the 24/7 championship, it wasn't Kane, it was Glenn Jacobs.
It was, Mayor Glenn Jacobs.
Yeah, so to have Kane come out here and not Glenn, like, that's good. Huge. I think that's the send-off that it needed to be. Like, that's a little bit of respect to both their characters, because both their characters are probably done now. You know, we saw them have that match at Super Showdown, and then again at Crown Jewel, and it's like, this is it. It's done. Yeah,
for sure. I mean, The Undertaker's career alone is as old as I am, which is wild. Like, it's crazy to think that he's been going for 3 decades.
So, might we add, that's 3 years just with the WWE.
Just with the WWE, yeah.
After that, all these people enter the ring to sort of give their applause. We see a video package with a lovely use of Metallica's "For Whom the Bell Tolls," which is very, very on point selection. So we're going to see a highlight of a bunch of his matches. We see all his WrestleMania streak. You know, just obviously the big key matches.
Clearly,
Then it comes back to Vince standing in the ring. Vince delivers a kind of shaky little speech about Taker, but knowing that
I definitely think
are massive bros after watching the last ride, you can see understandably that he's pretty bummed out.
Yeah, you can
he's
tell
sad
it's definitely. It's like losing your best friend. It's like, you know, he's not going to be here anymore and he's moving on to do his own thing. And, you know, I can understand, like, after 30 years, Vince would get very attached to people like The Undertaker, somebody who's been not only in the ring but behind the scenes. He's been such a trailblazer for the industry, and for Vince McMahon. He was actually, obviously we know Vince is notorious for being shitty to his employees. It was actually really heartwarming to see that he cares. Like,
well, he cares about Taker.
That he does.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's nice to see that he gives a shit, you know, and it was gut-wrenching, and the more I watched, the more I was like, oh, this is all right, and I kept watching, and then, you know, this beautiful, extravagant Undertaker entrance that took 700 years, as it does.
Can I just mention, like, when they opened, they played his theme using electricity.
Yeah, it was like
that was mad. So they had this conductor bar hanging above the entranceway, which I spotted early on, I didn't realize it was a connection rod. It was just I'm like, what's with that weird metal pole? And then later on, when they bring out the Tesla coils, I'm like, oh shit, we're gonna see electricity, and it's like, which is something they certainly couldn't have done with a crowd there because someone would have died. Yeah. So I do appreciate that.
Yeah, no, that was awesome. It was really, really, really cool. And it wasn't until Undertaker got down on one knee and then they superimposed Paul Bearer. That's
So Taker comes out. He does his little spiel. It talks about for the last 30 years, he slow walked down this entranceway and he's done all this and that. But, you know, now it is time
for the
Undertaker to rest in peace, which I was like, and then he gets on the knee, does his like little arm thing and you know, rolls the eyes back. And then, we hear Paul Bearer and they put a little hologram of him in there, which that was for me, that was the moment. Like, Paul Bearer is before my time. A lot of the Undertaker's run is before my time, but I've watched enough of their stuff, like, you know, more recently that I'm like, I get it. Like, the Undertaker wouldn't be the Undertaker if it wasn't for Paul Bearer.
Yeah, 100%.
Like they, you know. The big thing throughout like the 90s, you know, sort of like that's kind of what helped fuel this. You know what I mean?
Yeah, sure did. There wouldn't be any Undertaker without any Paul Bearer.
Exactly. It was like they were hand in hand, and like even to a point where even once Paul passed, like they were able, you know, he was still involved in the character. And there's a lot there, and like that's, I don't know. For me, that was super sweet. Like, right, like even though I believe his farewell was handled exceptional. Like, it would have been amazing if there was a crowd, because there would have been tears, there would have been pops, like it would have been absolutely insane. However, I do kind of love the beauty in having Taker stand there in a ring by himself, make the statement, and then just sort of like walk into the distance. Like, there's no crowd yelling obnoxious shit. It was just, it was a moment. And like, if anything, it sort of showed the power of Undertaker, where there's nobody else in that room, but everyone was locked. Like, I watched it at work with my clients, and then I watched it here at home with the mullet. And during that whole last segment, you could hear a pin drop. Like, you know, I was fixed, Craig was fixed, all my clients were fixed. Like it was like that was the focus because it was like this is a moment, you know. Because I was thinking
a
back,
moment we knew was coming.
yeah, and it's like I was thinking about it, and like although it's with sadness that I say that you know I will never get to see Undertaker's entrance because he will never return. I'll never see it live in person, and mostly because. You know, the last time that he was here in Australia was the Super Showdown back in 2018, and you know, that's not going to happen again. However, I'm also very grateful for Undertaker because having that match be here, so A, it being in Melbourne, and two, when I saw the card of the main event, Triple H versus Undertaker, I was like, I'm going to fucking watch this. And then little did I know that that was going to be my gateway into what I do now, which is watch wrestling every week, have a show about it. So, like, it is one of those things. Like, I'm disappointed that I never got to see it, but I'm very grateful for that. It's a weird sort of balance. So, what about you, Jem? How are you upon reflection?
I feel very much the same. I think for me, not seeing it in person really keeps that mystery to the Undertaker for me. And I think that's the way I want to remember him, is I want to remember that mystery and that intrigue and that dark, just mysterious character. And like, I don't know, I feel like it hits so much better for me on screen than it would in person. You know, it's exactly like getting attached to a TV show character, because that's exactly what it is. It's like, you're like, oh yeah, I love that guy. And then they get murdered in a red wedding or something. And you're like, oh, you're like Matt Riddle talking to MVP this week. That was the best. I'm sorry. That was so good. But it's definitely like, it definitely is that big, oh, but you know, I'm thankful that I got to see what I got to see over the years, and I got to see this evolution of a character to what it is now, and I got to be a part of saying goodbye. Like, that's huge. Like, yeah, it's one of those, this is what wrestling's about kind of moments. It's like you do get attached to people and characters, and
because it's one of those things, like, because the Undertaker he is wrestling.
He is.
Like, granted, you know, he may not have been able to go hard in the last couple of years, and he's had some dodgy matches here and there. Everybody has. But he's a name that everybody knows.
Exactly.
If you were to look at what was to become the what's it called, the fucking president's face fucking thing in the US. If you were to look at who were like
Capitol
the
Hill or whatever.
Yeah, whatever the name of that fucking thing is. If you were to look at like the faces of wrestling, like Taker is there, not just because he's been there the longest, but because he embodied what I think wrestling is. For me, it's character, it's story, and up until this point, he has maintained character. He has maintained that illusion. Like, he has been living that gimmick, and. Like, you know, people like different. So people watch wrestling for, like, you know, the actual wrestling, and when Undertaker could go, he could go. But like for me, it's character and story, and that's what he brought. He brought character. He brought story. He brought that for 30 years, and
theatrics for sure.
On camera, off camera, he was Taker. He wasn't Mark Calloway. He was fucking Taker.
Yeah. It's wild. Sad, but it's, you know, it's exciting to see.
Because on top of that as well, like, there was another rumor mill that, like, the Fiend would come out and he'll sort of pass the torch to the Fiend, and he didn't. And this is what I love. Like, you know, obviously there's that rule in the wrestling business, is when you go out, you bring someone up. You know what I mean? But Taker has deserved this. Yeah, you know, he won his final match. He won against Styles, which was still, you know, Boneyard match was awesome. And then with Uncle Alan, and then here we got to see him. He didn't have to do that, like, because it was more of a situation of, you've earned this, dude. You've earned your time. Like, you've earned the ability to go out strong, to go out with respect, to go out with dignity. Yeah,
to go out on your own.
Yeah,
on top.
Loved it. Absolutely love it. Speaking of going out on our own terms, I guess that brings us to the end of the show. Jem, as we do, what a not so patented Kurt Angle rating system, or what would you give Survivor Series 20?
Look, nothing's gonna top last year. Last year's Survivor Series was phenomenal. Having that break, I think, was helpful, and this year was good. There were some moments I was a bit like, meh. Overall, I'd probably go a Kurt and a bar.
Yeah, I'm in a similar space. Like, if I could give it a Kurt and a bit, I'd probably go with that, but probably a Kurt and a bar for that reason. Like, the Taker stuff really brought it home. The mid-card title I couldn't care about. But overall, that was probably the only match. It was still a good match. There was no bad match. But it's just there were some things that didn't sort of work for me.
Yeah.
But
we just didn't care for them.
Yeah, there was certainly no moment of, that was a bit of a hot mess. Like, there was none of that.
Yeah,
so that's certainly a win. But anyway, let us know what you thought of this year's Survivor Series match. Comments below, Facebook, Discord, all those places. Come chat to us. This has been, as we said, our Survivor Series 2020 review. Thank you so much for joining us. It came at you on a Thursday morning at 8 a.m. on your podcast services, 9 a.m. on those YouTubes. If you want to join that wrestling conversation, you can head over to facebook.com/group/popculturist, Twitter, Discord, Instagram. All those links are in the down below area. If you want... Wait, what was the next part? If you want to join the conversation as it happens, head over to twitch.tv/thepopcultures, where you can watch us record this show live. I just realized something. No, it's all good. It's all good, completely unrelated. I said like and then I lost it.
I have the hiccups, sorry.
So it's all good. If you want to support the show, you can tell your friends, tell your family about this about this wrestling pod. If you are on those podcast services, show you a 5-star rating and a written review. All the YouTubes, you can sub, you can like, you can leave a comment below. If you want to support us financially, you can at patreon.com/thepopcultures, as well as our merchandise store, popcultures.com/shop, where you can buy shirts and other assorted shit with our logos on it. To add to that, we are heading into like the Black Friday, Cyber Monday sort of sales. All our merchandise is on sale currently, including our newly Pornhub inspired design. I really did. I made the Pornhub logo with PopC in it because I laughed.
I love that.
I so laughed. I was like, I made it and I went, that's fucking hysterical. So I put it on the page.
Yeah.
Either way. But until next week, we return to our regular Raw and SmackDown review discussions. I'm Ryan Betson.
And I'm Jen.
See you then.
Good night.
The Young and the Restless, the Pop Culturist WWE podcast, is fan support over at Patreon at patreon.com/thepopculturist. And we'd like to thank our Patreon producers and our Patreon founders for their kindness, their support, and their generosity. Our Patreon founders: Alpha Ferret, Craig O'Flaherty, David Chataway, Jesse Stevenson, and Jacob Garner. And our Patreon producers: AJ Abatomi, Damian Holdies, Kyle Dunn, Lee Wintershoven, Nathan Massetti, Paul James, Pure Mongrel, and Sean Levitt.